insects. Okay, so where I had told you the classification is mainly based on the economics, means it may be a profit or it may be a loss. So in the similar way also we have the insects which cause the positive and the negative damage to humans. Okay, negative we are not dealing here, what I told you. So that is the crop pest, and other part I will be dealing. So that is the useful insects. So that means they are doing certain benefit like predation, parasitoids, and all these are coming under the useful, and beneficial insects we are getting some product. So that is what the classification I have told you in the last class. Okay, so always give that classification with the example. So next I will be moving on to the one by one, because as I told you, the first part I am not dealing, the second part I will be dealing like the useful or the beneficial insect. First I will deal with the useful insect. Okay, so useful insects, as I told you, so they are helping human beings by means of controlling the certain insects, or they may be controlling our weeds. Okay, so first among that I will be just beginning with the predators. Okay, so here in this slide you can see here I use the word entomophagus. You know that entomo means it is an insect. Phaga means eating. Any insect which is feeding on the other insects, they are coming under the category of the entomophagous insects. Okay, so entomophagous insects are the insects which are feeding on the other insects. So mainly that is the other insect means pest species. So those are called as the entomophagous. And here you can see they mainly include the predators and the parasitoids. So predators plus parasitoids are collectively called as the entomophagous insects. And why this? Especially when you look into the predator, it depends on its prey only for the purpose of the nutrition. Okay, so the predators are depending on the other insect. Okay, which is the insect which is eaten by the predator, we call it as a prey. Okay, so it depends on the prey only for the purpose of the nutrition. So another you have is the parasitoid. Already I told you parasitoid means it depends on the other insect, which we call it as a host. It is for both the nutrition and also for the purpose of the shelter. Okay, so that is the what the difference you have with the predators and the parasitoids. Okay, so first I will take the topic that is the predator. Okay, so here coming to the definition of the predator. So as I told you, under the topic predator, you will be studying the definition, structural adaptations, and some of the orders, which includes the members of that is the predators, plus you will be studying the classification. So these are the 4 topics I am going to cover under the topic that is the predator. So in general, everyone you know that if you are in front, I would have discussed how you can write the definition of the predator. So everyone you know that the predator, so it cannot be sluggish. It has to be very active. Okay, you know that. So the predator is always active. Okay, it is any individual. So just think about the cheetah or anything, you know that. So they are very active, and because they have to hunt. So the prey is not coming to them. So they have to hunt for the prey. So they are very active. Okay, so that is the one thing. So look into the number of the individuals that are required for completion of the life cycle. So that means any predator, it need more number of the individuals for the completion of the life cycle. So that individual may not be belonging to the same species. Okay, for example, you take praying mantis. So it is not feeding only on one insect, just like the honeybee or just like the hoppers or anything. So for the completion of the life cycle, so they need more number of the individual belonging to the different species. That is the next point you have to write it in the definition of the predator. And another most thing is that, so they don't have any intimate relation with the prey. So that means that attachment is not there like a parasitoid. So they can eat anything what it comes on their way. So that is what the definition of the predator. So just here I will write the definition of the predator in points here. You can see a predator is a free living organism throughout its life. So here you have to keep it in mind that, so whether it is in the immature stage, that is a grub stage, or in the adult stage, both are free living. So that is the first point. And as I told you, so it attacks more number of the individuals for the completion of the life cycle. So one single meal, whatever the insect it feeds, it is a single meal. So it needs more number of the meals. We are taking 4 or 5 meals daily. 3 meals are breakfast, lunch, and then again you have dinner. But in between you have the snacks, and also predators also they need the more number of the meals in a day. So that is what they attack more number of the individuals that belongs to one or more species. Okay. Next, here you can see here that it require more of the individuals for the completion of the life cycle, because unlike in case of the parasite, only one insect is needed for the completion of the life cycle. Okay, but here you can see they need more number of the individuals for the completion of the life cycle. And the second, as already I had told you, the insect which is killed or which is attacked by the predator is called as a prey. You should know that, because many times in the objective types, there the such silly questions will be coming. Okay, so predator, it is a prey. Parasite, it is a host. Okay. Next is a active. So as I told you, predator is very active and it hunts for its prey. And the last point you have is there is no intimate relation between the predator and its prey. Okay, that is what. This is the important point you have to write. So how you write a definition of the predator? So predator is a free living organism, both in the immature and the adult stage, and they require more number of the individuals for the completion of the life cycle. And so whatever the insect that is eaten by the predator is a prey. And so whatever last one you have is that they don't have any intimate relationship with the prey. So that is the what the definition predator means. Because many times the students, even if it is a silly, will not write the definition. So in this order, you have to write the definition of the predator. So next, I'll be moving on to the structural adaptation. So as I told you, an insect to become a predator. So it is evolved. It is not just like it is becoming a predator and it is becoming a parasite. It is a pre-plan. So in order to become a predator, so what are the other structural adaptations you find in the insect for the predatory life? So here I have written 2 points here. For example, that means all the predators, they do not need the modification. So that is what I have put in this slide. So here you can see mainly it depends upon the prey or the insect that the predator is feeding. So for example, here you can see when a prey is plenty, okay, so when they are more in number and when they are sluggish, okay, so the predator do not need any modification, structural modification for the predatory life. Example I can give you. So in the last course, you have seen the insects like the aphids. Okay, you have seen the mealybug and you have seen the scales. You know that they will be in large number. So, and also they are very sluggish. Only the first instar is very active. So it will select the suitable place and it will settle. After that, they will not move. So that means the prey here, it is plenty. And also they do not move after settling. So that is what you can see here. Mainly they have the predators like the coccinellus and the syrphids. Okay, so that is why coccinellus, that is a ladybird beetle, they don't have structural modification. Only thing they have is the mandibulate type of the mouth parts. Okay, the syrphids also don't have any modifications for the predator. So if a prey is plenty and if they're sluggish, so the predator do not need any structural adaptations. You have another category of the predator. So here you have is the prey is scarce here. So that means they are not easily available. And you can see here they are very active. So here the predator has to plan to catch the prey. So for that purpose, they have the structural adaptation. So this is a very important thing you have to remember. So if the prey is plenty, and if it is sluggish, the predator do not need any structural modifications or the adaptation. If they are less and if they are very active, so they need the modifications. So that is the thing. So here, just briefly, just tell you here. So some of them you might be having. Can you just tell me? So what may be the structural adaptations for the predatory life? One by one, can you list, students?
Ma'am, suckers, hooks, spines, etc. for just blood sucking and all, ma'am. And ma'am, the absence of some of the systems
No,
which
no,
are not necessary.
here I'm just talking about the structure. Structures like it may be a wing's morphological character, what they are developing for the predatory life.
Ma'am, hooks, spines,
That
teeth.
is the one. Just you take the dragonflies, okay? So they have the spines, and you take the robber flies. Legs are provided with the spines because whatever the prey that is caught, it should not be that means escape should not be there. That is the one thing. Then other modifications. Students, talk. You know, many insects are doing the job. Common insects are doing the job of predation. You don't have examples where they have some more modifications?
Forelegs modified for capturing the prey.
Yeah, one is the leg character you have. That is in which insect you find it?
Praying mantid.
Yeah, so that in case of the praying mantids, and also you might have heard about some of the insects, that is the giant water bug, and some of the insects which are there in the water. So they are predators. So they are having the predator type of the leg. So then next leg character you have. Then tell me which character. What you find in the head character. So what are the structures that are being modified in the head? What you have in the head? So if you are not taking, I will just close the class here. What are the structures you find in the insect head?
Mouth parts.
So you have the mouth parts, then?
Labium, mandible.
So mouth parts is just, don't go for the parts, whatever you
Ma'am,
have.
simple eyes, compound eyes, antenna, ma'am.
Then what you find the modification in these two? Take the example of the praying mantid. So what it is having mandibular type of the mouth parts. What about the compound eyes? In case of the dragonflies, they are very big. Okay. So those are the modifications that you find for the predatory life. And that I will be just going one by one here. Okay. So first coming to the adaptations, especially here, I am dealing with the step by step here. So here, the legs and the wings. Okay, already have studied the types of the legs in the insect. Okay, so you have predatory like, and also you have the running. Why they have the running type of the legs here? So here I'm just giving you the one or two example. So adaptations for the rapid locomotion here. So here I'm not giving the example of the praying mantid. Here I'm mainly dealing with the locomotion because the predator, it has to move fast. Okay. Here you have is the leg and the wing character, so which mainly helps for the locomotion. So here you look into the examples of the tiger beetle. So that belongs to the family Cicindelidae, and you have the ground beetle, that is the Carabidae. Okay, so these insects, both you know that the grubs and the adults are predator. So here you can see these insects, that is the tiger and the ground beetle. So they are having the running type of the legs. So the legs are long and they are very slender. You can see they are not heavy built, okay, because they have to run fast. And that is what you can see, the leg adaptations or for the fast running, they have the running type of the legs. So that is for the swift movement. So they have the running type of the legs. So next here you have is the wing. Okay, so you take the dragonflies and the I have given the example of the robber flies. Dragonflies, you know, they belong to the order Odonata. And then the robber fly, it is a Acelidae. So here you can see, as you know, the dragon or the Acelidae, they do not catch any predator. They do not prefer the dead one. So they, especially dragon or the damsel fly, so they catch the prey when they are in the flight. Okay, whether it is both. Okay, so that is what you can see here. They have the well-developed wings. Both the forewing and the hind wings are very well developed, and they are provided with the muscles. So that is why for the rapid flyers, we call them as a rapid flyers, because to catch the insect. So that is what you can see here. So this is the dragonfly and this is the robber fly. So this is the one where you have the legs and the wings modification. So next here you have is the vision. So as I told you, So especially in the head region, you have the compound eyes. So not all the insects are having their compound eyes very big. Okay, you can see here in case of the dragon and the damselfly. So this is a dragon and the damsel, and you know that it is a contiguous, and another you have that is a holoptic and a dicoptic type of the compound eyes. So because they have many ommatidia, so that they can see the insects clearly for catching. So they have the bigger size of the compound eyes. And another you have is the praying mantis. So here you might be knowing in the last course, they might have told you that is a praying mantis is the only insect which can look upon its shoulders. So this is what you can call it as a shoulder of the praying mantis. So here you can see this is the one which can look onto its shoulder. So it is having the wide vision. Okay, so it is having a wide vision, and it will and they use it mainly for catching or capturing the prey. So that is the one thing in case of the dragon, damselfly, and the praying mantis. So they have well-developed compound eyes. So next you have is the mouth parts. So it is mainly here you can see the one example I can just give is for the in case of the Neuroptera. So the members of all the members of the Neuroptera are exclusively predator. Okay, so whether it is in the grub stage or in the adult stage, they are the exclusive predator on the other insect, but they are the general predator. So here, one example I am giving you, all the grubs of the Neuroptera, they are having the mandibulosuctorial type of the mouth parts. So what is this mandibulosuctorial type of the mouth parts? That is a grasping and sucking type of the mouth parts. So this is, I'm talking only in the grub stage. So here you can see in the black and white diagram. So here the mandibles are long and they are sickle shaped. Okay, and the inner margin of the whatever the mandible, it is a hollow. It is having a groove, so that it is a hollow. And here you can see this is the lacinia of the maxillae. Okay, so this is the lacinia of the maxillae. You know that you have the one of the part in case of the maxillae is the lacinia. So here you can see it is just a long, and this one will just fit into the groove that is there in the mandible, and this will go and fit into the groove, and it just form like a straw. Whenever you are drinking the juice and all, you are using a straw. So this is just forming a straw like structure. So this will go and fit. And these mandibles at the tip, they are very pointed. So they pierce the mandible into the prey, and they suck only the body fluid. They do not feed on the entire insect. Only the body fluid is eaten. So this is what you find in case of the members of the Neuroptera in the immature stage, that is in the grub. So in this, you can see it is actually how the grubs look. And these are the antenna. And this is what the mandible, and this is the lacinia. So this is a mandibulosuctorial type of the mouth parts that you find in the grubs of the Neuroptera. So in this diagram or the picture, you can see this is a green lacewing, that is a Chrysoperla, Jastrovia, or anything, aphid line, what you call it. So here you can see mainly they feed on the sucking insects like the aphids, leafhoppers also they feed, and the mealybug. So here you can see the mandibles. Can you see in this photograph? So this is the mandible which has pierced into the prey, and that is what the lacinia is going and fitting, and they just suck the body fluid. Okay, and they usually have the habit of lifting the prey when it is sucking, so that it will be having a better grip when it is feeding on its prey. So this is the important character that you find it in case of the Neuroptera. Okay. And next you have is the another group of the insects which are having the different mandibles are there, but they are of different types. So here you have is in case of the ground beetle and the tiger beetle. So you know that grubs and the adults are predator. So here you can see the mandibles are there in front of the, and you know that, so these are mainly having the prognathous type of the head, right? The mouth parts are directed forward, okay? And here you can see they are provided the well-developed incisor teeth, okay? You can see here, the teeth are very sharp, and they catch the prey with these mandibles, grind it and make it into fine. That is they will grind it, and after grinding, the food is pushed into the mouth. So this is what you can see, external feeding will be there in case of this category, that is a ground, and this is a tiger beetle, okay? And next example you have is in case of the dragon and the damselfly, again in the immature stage. Okay, you know that. So the labium, this is in case of the naiad. Okay, so the labium, it is modified into a prehensile organ that we call it as a mask. So just like a frog, what the frog will do, it will eject the tongue and it will capture the prey in a fraction of a second and it will close its mouth. So here also you can see the tip of this mask, it is provided with a two hook and with which they will capture the prey and immediately it will be taken into the mouth. So this is what here it is open and this is closed. When it is not feeding, you can see this entire thing is a mask or the prehensile organ where it at the resting position and they will stretch it out immediately and take out the insect. So this is only in the larva you will find it. In adults, they are having the mandibular type of the mouth parts. Okay. And here you can see they are very strong, the naiads of the dragon. So this is the naiad of the dragonfly where you can see they have the rectal gills, and this is the damselfly where they have the caudal gills. So they are little bit long and slender, and whereas the dragon naiad, it is heavy built. You can see here, they feed on the fishes which are there in the water. Okay, so it is just like a food web. Okay, and this is what you can see. It is a grub of this. That is you have many insects which are there in the dipteranids. Okay, gnats are there. Okay, mosquito larvae. So this is a larvae of the gnat. Okay, so where you can see that is the mask which is having the hook. So they will just pick it and take it to the mouth. So this is you find in case of the dragon and the damselfly. So in case of the adult, just now I had told you, so they are having the basket type of the legs. So you can see here, the legs are just immediately behind the head. So that means they are anteriorly placed. And just now one of the students has told that, so the legs will be provided with the spines. So here you can see they are not smooth. They are provided with the spines because when it is in the flight, so it will catch the prey. So for that, the whatever the prey it has got, it should not escape. So because of that, there you can see they are provided with the spines on the leg. So this is the basket type of the leg that you find in the adults of the dragon and the damselfly. And next example you have is the example for the praying mantis. Okay, so where in the immature and the adult stage, they are having the predatory or the grasping type of the leg. So where the foreleg, the femur and the tibia is modified. The inner margin of the femur and the tibia, so they are having a groove on either side of the groove. You can see here they are provided with the spines. So the insect will be trapped between the femur and the tibia, and the grip is mainly given by these spines. And look here, so the spines which are at the beginning of the femur and end of the tibia, you can see they are long. So that means they avoid the escape of the prey, whatever it is caught. Okay, so this is the water scorpion, that is the Napidae. Okay, so where again they have the predatory type of the legs, and this is the giant water bug. Okay, so where you can also see the hind legs are swimming type, natatorial, and the foreleg are the predatory type. Okay, so I will just show you this. This is how you can see you find the structural adaptations with respect to the leg. Okay, next you have is the others you have is the camouflaging. So what is the meaning of the camouflaging is mimicking the background so that they are not identified by the predator. So one best example you have is the praying mantis, especially in case of the orchid. Okay, so the orchids are beautiful flowers. Okay, so cryptically colored. So here you can see this is the orchid flower and this is the praying mantis. So exactly this will fit into the flower. Why it will exactly fit into the flower, the color of the flower or everything is that. So mainly many bees are coming for collection of the pollen, and many hoppers or the small insects will be coming. So in order to, whenever they go for the collection of the pollen or the nectar, easily they can catch it. So that is the only intention why they are having the camouflaging. So this is in case of the white orchid, and this is what again in the purple color orchid. So here you can see this is the praying mantis nymph. Okay, so where you can see it has collect or captured the prey, which has, that is the dipteran. Okay, it is the adult which has come for taking the nectar. Okay, and that is the example for the camouflaging. Okay, So next here you have is the trapping. So certain insects, they also make the trap for catching the prey. The best example under this category you have is the antlion. Okay, so that is the Myrmiliontidae. So they are mainly called as an antlion because their main host is the ants. So here you can see wherever there is the sandy soil is there. Okay, so they mainly because they prefer the sandy soil. So where it will be easy for it to make the trap. So here you can see it is a conical shaped trap. Exactly in the center where you have hole, the grub will be waiting here. So it is a conical pit where you can see at the entrance where the exactly any ant which is just passing or any small insect which is passing on the this trap, it will be this will fall into the hole that is there. And exactly at the center, you can see the grub will be waiting with the mandibles for capturing. Okay. So any insect, it is mainly trap meant for the ant. Other small insects are also, they fall into this. Okay. So this is the grub of the antlion and this is the adult. Mainly this is where if you just disturb that, you will get the grub of the this. So if you are staying here and if you have such, try to remove them, you will be getting the, because still you have to submit the insect. Okay. You can just disturb it and you will get the grub of the antlion. So another best example for the trapping you have is the tiger beetle. Okay, the ground beetle, it will not make any trap, but here you have is the tiger beetle. You can see here, this is the larvae of the tiger beetle, which will be there on the ground. Okay, and you can see they are having very well developed mandibles. And the most thing is that, so you can see in the fifth abdominal segment, they are provided with a sharp hook. Why they have this sharp hook? That also you can see they are directed front. Okay, you can see. This is the trap, how it is hiding. You can see here the grub of the tiger beetle. It is hiding or it is hiding into the soil. Up to the ground, you can see it will enter into the soil. And this is whatever they have the hook in the fifth abdominal segment, they pierce into the ground. So because why they have this structure is that you can see here just it is waiting to the level of the ground and the mandibles are wide open, you can see. So whenever the insect which is coming or close to it, it will just hold the prey and it will start feeding on that. Then why you find this structure? Sometimes whatever the prey that is caught by the grub, it may be bigger. So there is a chances of pulling off the grub from the trap. Okay, so out there, it may be a false one because the prey may escape. So in order to avoid the pulling of the larvae from the whatever the pit it has made, so it is having a hook there. So this is mainly to have a grip and it should not come out when it has caught the prey. Okay, so this is what you find in case of the tiger beetle. So this is how it will be hiding. Okay, so it will just capture and eat on whatever the insect that is just passing near the trap. Okay, so this you find only in case of the tiger beetles, not in the ground beetles. So next you have is the stinging predator. So many of them you have, I think so you have seen, especially if you are coming from the village background, I think so you might have seen many of the wasps will be catching the caterpillar. Okay, so here why they do this? So here you can see it is not all the wasp, only certain wasps, the wasp, they collect the insect or that is the insect for the food for the young ones. So here you can see I have listed 3 families here. The Scolidae is the Humanidae, that is the potter wasp, and you have is the Pompilidae, that is the spider wasp. So here you can see, as you know that almost all the species of the wasp, they are having a sting, and the sting again ultimately there is a venom. So what these stinging predators will do, so they will catch the caterpillar or it may be a spider here you can see, so they paralyze it. So that means they only make the whatever the insect they have caught immobile, and when they paralyze it, the caterpillar is not killed. So it is only whatever it is made inactive and the larva will be very intact, no secondary infection, nothing will be taking place. So they catch these paralyzed caterpillars out the spiders to their nest. After taking into the nest, they will lay the egg onto this caterpillar so that young ones after hatching, they feed on these caterpillars. So this, whatever the larvae they are catching, it is the food for their young ones. Okay, so these are called as a stinging predator. At the time, they also catch any of the insect and they feed, but they do not feed on the caterpillar as an adult. They feed on the adult insect. So this caterpillar is mainly a food for the young ones because they are very soft and they get only the liquid from these caterpillars, and where the young ones easily can feed on the caterpillar. Okay. And here you have is the Pompilidae. So mainly this will collect only spiders. It will not collect the insects for as a food for the young one. So this is what we call it as a stinging predator. So these are the some of the 7 I have given you, the structural adaptations that you find in case of the insects for the predatory life. So how you have to remember is that, so go on by the head structure. So when you take the head structure, you write that is the compound eyes, okay, they are modified, and then you have is the mouth parts. So mouth parts, you take the mandibulus sectorial, and you have is that is the mandibles. Other you have is the mandibles, which are provided with the teeth that you find in the grubs, that is in the Carabidae and the Cicindelidae. So that is the 2 parts you find in case of the head, the compound eyes, and another is the mouth parts. Next, you come on to the thoracic region. So what you have in the thoracic region is the wings. The wings for the swift flight, okay, so they can catch, and the legs for running. So these are the 2 things. Next, again, when you look into the leg modification, so you can say predatory type for the different, by giving the different examples. So that is what you find the modification. Rest all you have is the camouflaging, so the mimicking or the background, and then you have is the stinging predator you have, and others you have the example for trapping. So in this way, it will be easy for you to remember the whatever the structural modification, so that you will not miss any of the point. So these are the some of the structural modification that you find in case of the predator. Next, I will be moving on to the orders. Okay, here I am not dealing with all the orders, only those important orders which include the predators I will be touching. Only I will give the example on what they are feeding. Here I am not telling any of the characters here. So first thing I'll be telling you about the Exopterygota insect, and then I will be going down to the Endopterygota. The first common order that you know is the Odonata. Okay, so this is the order which are exclusively predator, because in the exam they will ask you list the sum of the orders which are exclusively predator. So you have the Odonata. When you look into the mantids, so they are also exclusively predator. And you have the another order that is the Neuroptera, okay, which are coming under the Endopterygota. So that order is also exclusively the predator. Under the Coleoptera, you have important families like the Carabidae, Cicindelidae, and the Coccinellidae, which are exclusively predator. So that you have to remember, which are only exclusive, and other options will be having only the pest and the other thing. So here you have the first order, that Odonata, okay, that includes the dragon and the damselfly. So you know how to differentiate dragon and damselfly. I'm not going to touching that. So you know they're having the 2 suborders, that is the Anisoptera and the Zygoptera. So Anisoptera, Zygoptera, it is mainly related to the ptera, means it is a wing. Zygo means both the forewing and the hand wings are same in size with respect to size plus venation. Whereas the Anisoptera, that is a dragonfly, both the forewing and the hindwing are not same with respect to size and also venation. So I have just given you the one example, that is a Pantala flaviceps is an example for the dragonfly, and for the damselfly, it is a Copera marginipes. Okay, so these are the example for the dragon and the damselfly. So you have to remember the scientific name. Okay, so they are the one thing you remember, both naiad and the adults are exclusively predator. So this is just now I have shown you the dragon and the damselfly naiad. And here, what are the insects they are eating? So when a naiad is there, you know that it is in the water. So when it is in the water, what are the insects that are available for the naiad is the mosquito larva. You know that the Aedes species breed in the fresh water. So they mainly feed on the mosquito larvae, chironomid. So I think so you might have heard this chironomid, where the blood is having the hemoglobin. So that is why the color of the blood is red. But other insects, they don't have the hemoglobin. Then you have is the gnat larvae, okay, which is a diptera. So mainly the naiads, apart from that, they are also eating on these fishes and all the tadpoles, everything they are eating. But here I'm dealing with only the insects they are eating. Okay, so they feed on the larvae of the mosquito, gnat, and the chironomid. So then what about the adult? So you know that adults are terrestrial. So it is a general predator. Please remember almost all the insects, what it is eating is the members belonging to the Lepidoptera, Hymenoptera, that is the wasps, bees, and the ants. And also they will be eating on the adult mosquito. You might have seen immediately after the rain, another 1 or 2 days after the heavy rainfall, or whenever there is a frequent rainfall. So you might have seen the dragonflies will be very active. Why they will be active? So you just keenly observe why their number is more and sit and wait and see they will be actively feeding on the mosquitoes, midges, and the gnats adult. Because what happens, these midges and the gnats, because of all this, because of the rainfall, you will be having the standing of the water here and there. So during that time, you'll be having the heavy breeding of the mosquito, midges, and the gnats. Adults will be coming out. So that is why the dragonflies will be very active and happily feeding on these insects, adults, not the immature, because immatures are eaten by the naiad. So it will be feeding on the adults of the mosquito, midges, and the gnats. Okay. So another one is we have to remember that you know that termites adult will come out only soon after the monsoon rains. Okay. They will be coming in large number. You have seen attracted to the light during the evening hours. When there is a monsoon rain, next only immediately you can see the adults will be coming. Okay. And they are the active predator on the termite swarm. Why it is called as a swarm? Because they are coming in the large number. Okay. So these are the insects which are eaten by the dragon and the damselfly in the immature, and this is the adult, and this is the one exception where you can see they are the active predators on the termite swarm. Next order you have is the Mantodia. So that mainly includes the Mantidae, that is the praying mantis. So the foreleg, you know that this is a coxa, which is very long and it gives the free movement for the leg. So in other insect, you might have seen the coxa is short. It is not mobile. Sometimes it is attached to the mesometa on the ventral side. But here in this, you can see to have the free movement for the foreleg, which is a predator and which is mainly used for capturing the prey, the coxa is elongate. So that is what you can see, the free movement. This is a trochanter, this is the femur, and this is the tibia. So always it is, whether it is an insect or any animal, when it is a predator, you know that the first part eaten is the head. So if the head is eaten, so now you know that what the other parts will be there. Okay. So here also you can see the praying mantis also eat the first part is the head region and then go on eating the other parts. Okay. And here you can see one photograph. So why I have put here? Because praying mantis is, even though if it is a predator, in turn it is also having a predator. Okay. So always it is there in the food web. So what the praying mantis will do, if there is any predator approaching the praying mantis for the feeding, because the praying mantis itself is a bigger, again the predator of the praying mantis should be bigger. Okay, so what it will do whenever the prey or the predator is approached for feeding on the praying mantis, so it will stand on the middle and the hind leg, and it will was a widespread its legs and also the wings. And this is mainly to show the predator that I am also strong and I am also big. So this is a defensive posture that you find in case of the praying mantis. Almost they will do. This is mainly to scare away the predator which is approaching for the feeding. Okay, this you find in case of the praying mantis. And what are the food? So these praying mantis are also general predator. Okay, so they are the general predator because mainly we'll call them as a general predator, or some of them are specific predator. So here you can see the young ones. And another thing you remember, in case of the praying mantis, there is a cannibalism. So what is the meaning of the cannibalism is that, so if they are more in number nearby, okay, so they will be feeding on each other. Okay, so because of that only you might have seen the praying mantis nymph or the adult, they always live in an isolated way. So here you can see the nymph of the praying mantis It mainly feed on the aphids, which are there on the plants, leaf hoppers, and the smaller insect which are there on the plant. Okay. And the next you can see, because it is not strong enough to catch on the other strong insects. So where you can see adult is strong enough. Okay. And you can see it is catching the flies, spiders, bugs, bees, wasps, grasshoppers, crickets, and the beetles. Many, whatever the insect it is coming, it is feeding, even including the spiders. So that is why they are the general predators. So the food of the nymph or the food of the adult is different, but they don't have the any specificity for the particular group of the insect. So this is what the mantidae. Okay, so I'll just give you the one or two example under the praying mantis. So this is the one green color, everyone you might have caught now. Okay, this is the Mantis religiosa, okay, which is a green and which is a common in the nature. This is the Mantis religiosa. Here you have one species of the praying mantis. Many students will get confused with the leaf insect. Please students, this is not a leaf insect. Whenever you catch this, you look into the foreleg, because the leaf insect, all the four middle and the hind legs are same here. But you look here, the forelegs are predatory type. So this species is called as a Gongylus gongyloides, usually brown, or you may get the green color. Okay, so this is the Gongylus gongyloides species of the praying mantis. And another I will tell you, so this is usually on the bark. So you can see it is mimicking the bark so that it can easily catch the prey. So this is the Humbertiella indica, which is a general predator. So just I have given you the three examples, that is the Mantis religiosa, Gongylus gongyloides, and you have another that is a Humbertiella indica. Okay, so these are the three examples that you have to remember under the family Mantidae. Next order under the Exoterygota you have is the Hemiptera. Okay, so Hemiptera, you know that under this you have is the Heteroptera and the Homoptera, and you have studied the character of the order Hemiptera. So you know that the members of the Hemiptera are the pestiferous. They are the number one rank, you can say, on the cropland. So they are very much difficult to control, and also they are involved in the transmission of the insect diseases. And here, apart from that, you have some examples which are also doing the beneficial work. So that is behaving as a predator. Here, I'll just give you the 3 or 4 families that includes the predatory Hemiptera. The first family, you know that it is a Reduvidae. So what is the common name for the Reduvidae is that the kissing bug. Why it is kissing? Because it will suck the blood around the lips. Assassin, sometimes they induce, release the toxic venom into the body, and if you're not taking it, it may lead to the death. So that is what the assassin. And you have cone nose bug. You can see here, it is having a head and just look like a cone. So that is why it is a cone nose bug. And what are its hosts? Both the nymph and the adults are predator. Here you have to be very specific, because you have some of the Reduvidae which are also pests, and also which are also pests on not only plants and also on the human beings. Here, I'm giving you the examples which are only feeding on the insect pest of the crop. One you have is the Eschinus heros. Okay, so this is a common, you find it. It is a general predator on the other insects. And then you have is Acanthaspis quincus spinosa. Okay, you can see spines are there on the either side of the thorax. So that is why Spinosa, Acanthaspis quincus spinosa. So they are also general predator. So one more thing you have to remember, that whenever again it is a Hemiptera. So you should know how the predator feeds. Not all the predator feeding on the insect in the same way. Okay, some of them they are consuming the entire prey. Some of them they are sucking only the body fluid. Here also you can see that. So the bugs, you know that they are having the piercing and sucking type of the mouth parts, where they have the 4 stylites. Okay, so what they will do, again in this photograph you can see they insert the mandibular stylites into the prey, and where you know that the maxillary stylites they form a that is the food canal, and they take out only the body fluid of the prey. So this is the nature of feeding by the Hemiptera. Okay, so this is the members of the Reduvidae. You can see here mainly they are preferring to eat on the caterpillars, grubs, okay, the beetles, moths, flies, leafhoppers, aphids, and the other insect. Okay, so they are also the general predators of the insect. Next here you have is the millipede. There is a one species of the redwood. Many of the students will confuse it for the nymph. It is not a nymph because usually when it is a nymph, the bugs are not having the well-developed wings. But here you can see it is a wingless. So this is also predator, especially on the millipede. So here you can see this is the millipede. So these all are the immature stages of the same redwood, and here you have is the adult of the
Ma'am, one second. Chandrashri, off your mic. Chandrashri, off your mic.
Okay, so you have one species of the assassin bug, so which will be feeding on the millipede, especially both the nymph and the adults will be feeding on the body fluid. So this is the one family, that is the Reduvidae. Apart from the pest species, we also have the predatory species. So next family you have is the Pentatomidae. So Pentatomidae, so they are called as stink bugs because they have the glands which releases the bad smell whenever you disturb them. So that is why stinky smell will be coming from these bugs when you disturb, because they are on the ventral side of the thorax, especially in the meso or the metathorax. They have these scent glands through which they release the bad smell. So here also you can see, as there again these are having the piercing and sucking type of the mouth parts. You can see here only they are feeding on the body fluid. One example for the Pentatomidae as a predator you have is a Eucanthocona fasciculata. Okay, so this is the one which is a common, you will find it. Okay, it is a Eucanthocona fasciculata. And here you can see they are mainly predator on the larvae of the Lepidoptera. You can see here I have put the different photographs where they are attacking the different caterpillars of the Lepidoptera. Okay, so because you know that the caterpillar are the major pest of our crop. Okay, so here you can see the nymph and adults are predaceous. So here whatever you have, all are the adult. Okay, so both nymphs and adults are the predator on the larvae of the Lepidoptera. So here I have given one example because Eucanthocona fasciculata, mainly you'll find it in the red gram, that is the red-headed caterpillar. Usually you'll find it in the groundnut. Okay, so that is the Amsecta albistrega and the Helicoverpa armigera. So these are the major pests on which it is feeding on the larvae. Okay, so that is the one example for the Pentatomidae. Next family you have is the Miridae. So mainly Miridae, I think so you might remember the Gava Kudgy bug or the Helopeltis antoni, okay, which is a major pest both in the Gava and also in the cashew ecosystem. So this is the one which includes the beneficial also. They are also serious pest, but also you have one or two species which act as a best predator. One example I have given you is the green mirid bug. Okay, that is the Ceratorinus lividipennis. Okay, the Ceratorinus lividipennis, usually you will find it in the rice ecosystem. Okay, because it is mainly feeding on the eggs and the nymph. Be careful, they are not feeding on the adult. Only they are feeding on the eggs and the nymph of the leaf hopper and also the plant hopper. Okay, so that is what you can see here. Okay. So the green, this is the leaf hopper and this is the plant hopper and this is the white-backed hopper. All these you find it in the rice ecosystem. So if you are coming from the rice growing area, if you see this usually light green in color, and usually if you are not using the chemicals, definitely you will find it. That is the Ceratorinus lividipennis, which feed on the eggs and the nymphs of the leaf hopper and the plant hopper. Okay. So I'm not telling you the family character here because it is not required. Okay. So another under the Miridae also you have is the Nesidiocoris tenuis. So why I'm giving you this example? So many times you might come across, so certain predators are there in the absence of the host. Okay. When they don't have the prey, ultimately they start feeding on the plant. So on the same, for example, here I'm giving you on the tomato. So on the tomato, we have a major pest which has been introduced to India from the America, that is the American tomato moth. So that is a Tuta absoluta, okay, which is there on the leaf and also on the fruit. Usually farmers call it as a oozy. Okay, so this is not a oozy. So this is the one where you can see it is a moth which is feeding. Caterpillar, you can see it feeds on the blotches will be there on the leaves and also on the fruit. This is the nature of damage. So what happened? This Nesidocorys tenuis, it feeds on the eggs and the larvae of the Tuta obsoleta. So what happens if this tuta is not there? They start feeding on the tomato leaf itself. They pierce the mouth parts and they start feeding on the plants. So they are called, such predators are called as the zoophytophagus. Phyto means it is a feeding on the plant. So zoo means it is the other insect. Zoophytophagus means it is doing the job of feeding on the predator prey, and also when it is in its absence, it is also feeding on the plant. But these are not beneficial because during the time, so they may cause the loss to our crop by means of the damage. So this is one example for your information I'm just giving you. But this is the not case with the green merit bug. It feeds only on the eggs and the nymph, but not on the plant. So one example we should remember for the zoophytophagus is the Nesidocorys tenuis. Okay, so these are the two examples under the Miridae. Another family I'm just including under is the Bellastomatidae, so which is there in the water. Okay, this we call it as a giant water bug. Okay, so here you can see, apart from the insects, you can see here it is eating on the all other things. It is a tadpole, young frog, and also you can see the baby of the turtle is also caught by the giant water bug. So it is a Bellastoma indica. It is a general predator. Both nymph and adults are the predator. So these are the four families. One is the Acelidae, you remember, and Pentatomidae. So you remember, then I just told you the Miridae and the Bellastomatidae. But the most important part you have is the Miridae and the Pentatomidae. Try to remember them. Okay, so with what they are eating. Okay, so that is with about the Exoterygota. So in the Exoterygota, I have included only 3 orders. That is the Odonata I have included, Mantodia, that is a praying mantis, and another you have is the Hemiptera. Under that, I have included the 4 families. Next, moving on to the orders which are coming under the Endoterygota. So Endoterygota, you know, so they are having the development of the wing is internal and you cannot see the externally. Where they have the 4 stages, egg, larva, pupa, and the adult. As I told you, so the members under the Endoterygota, you have to remember the 2 orders, Neuroptera and the Coleoptera. So these are the important orders which includes the predator apart from the Diptera and also the Lepidoptera. So here, but these are exclusively predator families, whatever I am listing you. The first coming to the Neuroptera. So I had told you the character of the Neuroptera grub. So where they have the mandibulosuctorial type of the mouth parts. Okay. So here under the Neuroptera, we have studied many of the families. One is the Chrysopidae, and then next you have is the Hemorrhobidae, Ascalpidae, and the another you have is the Myrmeleontidae. And here I am just including another one, that is the Mantispidae. Okay, Mantodia, Mantidae is different, but here I am mentioning it is a Mantispidae. Okay, so here the 2 families I am comparing because many of the times we get confused between the Chrysopidae and the Hemorrhobidae. So here you have the first family, the Chrysopidae. What is the common name? Okay, it is a aphid lion. So why it is called as a aphid lion? Because aphid is an insect. Okay, lion means one which eats more. So it mainly prefers to eat on the aphids and it eats in a large number. So that is why it is a aphid lion. So it is called as a green lacewing because the color, it is usually green. Optional, you also have some species which are brown, but many of the species are green in color. Lace because the wings are lace-like, and that is why it is a green lacewing. And other side also you have the brown lacewing. So here all the adults of the brown lacewing are brown. You don't find the green color. Here they are also called as the aphid lion, but don't just get confused. Whenever they ask you in the exam, aphid lion means always please refer to the green lacewing. That is a Chrysopidae. So here I'm just comparing the both because there is a lot of confusion. So when you look in all the stages, you have the difference with the egg, larva, pupa, and the adult with respect to the 2 families. The first one you have is the egg character. So you know that the green lacewing, okay, so they are the best example for the stalked eggs. No other species will lay the eggs in this form. So the eggs are stalked. So here you can see they have a stalk, and the tip of that stalk the eggs will be laid. So this is a stalked egg. So whereas, and also it is a light green in color when it is fresh, and at the time of hatching it turns black color. But what about the Hemerobidae? Here you can see the egg is brown color, but it is not having any stalk, just it will be attached to the leaf or any plant surface. And next you have is the grub. So here, one of the character of the Chrysopidae is that on this grub, that is the Chrysopidae green lacewing, on the dorsal side of its abdomen, they are provided with a fine CTR provided on the dorsal side of its abdomen. And always it is having a habit of carrying the debris. Can you see here? It is carrying the debris on its abdomen. Why it is carrying? Because you know that mainly they are preferring to eat on the aphids and the millibug. And these aphids and the millibugs, you know that they are attended by the ants. Always the ants will scare away these predators and the parasitoid. So it will be just covering it and it will be moving into the colony of the aphid. This is mainly for the protection. Okay, so this is having the carrying of the debris on its abdomen. Okay, because the CTR are also there, which are holding it. But on the other side, you have is the brown lacewing. So here you can see the abdomen is very shiny, soft, and it is not provided with any seating. And it is not having the character or the habit of carrying the debris of its prey on in the colony. So this is the difference between the grub of the green lacewing and the brown lacewing. Okay, and finally the third you have is the pupa. So here the pupa of the green lacewing, it is just like the sorghum grain, which is very compact. You can see here. If you just cut open, inside you will be having the exarate type of the pupae. But what about the brown lacewing? So it also constructs the cocoon, but it is a loose cocoon and it is a double layer. Inside you can see it is little bit compact. On the outer one, it is a loose cocoon. Okay, it makes the double cocoon, which are of the loose. Here it is a compact cocoon. So that is the third difference. And finally, you have is in the adult stage. So many times, as I told you, some of the green lacewing are also brown color. Under such condition, you cannot say that without looking into the certain character for as a green brown lacewing. So what is the one character that is differentiating the adults of the Chrysopidae and the Hemerobidae is that this is the costa. So these are the costal cross veins. So here you can see these cross veins, you know, the cross veins are the one which are present between the longitudinal veins. So longitudinal veins are the one which arise from the base and end towards the tip of the wing. And these cross veins, you can see, these are the costal cross veins because this is the costa and this is the subcosta. Here, in case of the green lacewing, you can see these costal cross veins are not branching. Singly, they are joining. Without branching, they are joining the coastal margin of the wing. But what about in case of the brown lacewing? You can see here, this coastal that is the coastal cross vein, before reaching the wing margin of the wing margin, you can see it is branching into two. So this is called as the forked cross vein. Forking means branching. And here, that is the one difference. So look into this character and differentiate. So the coastal cross veins are not forked here, and here it is the forked one. So where you can see before reaching the coastal margin, they are branching into two. So that is the one character. And another character is the antennal character. So here you can see it is a bead-like, what you find in case of the termites. It is a moniliform type of the antenna. So here it is just a hair-like antenna. Okay. So these are some differences between the Hemerobidae and the Chrysopidae. Then what about the feeding character? So one thing you remember, the green lacewing, it is feeding only in the larval stage. The adult is not a predator. It prefers to feed only on the pollen. Okay, so that is why when we are wearing the green lacewing, we are providing the pollen and also the honey for as an adult food because it is not feeding on the aphids. So that is what you can see here. Another difference, Larvae are predaceous. Mainly they are feeding on the homopterans. Homopterans means which includes only the sucking insects like the aphids, mealybug you have seen, the scales, psyllids which you get it in the subapple, thrips are there, mites which is not an insect. And also apart from that, you can also see here, it also feed on the eggs of the Lepidoptera. Especially in the cotton ecosystem, it is eating on the eggs of all the three species of the bollworms. And here I have given you the one example, that is a Chrysoperla jastrovi. And the other side you can see here, the Hemerobidae, that is the brown lacewing, it is a predator in both the larval and the adult stage. So in this photograph, you can see this is the adult which is feeding on the woolly aphid which is there on the sugar cane. This is also aphid, but it is having a woolly covering. Okay, so that is what the difference. Larvae and adults are predaceous, mainly on the aphids, coccids, and the mites. So one thing you remember. Hello.
ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಒಂದ್ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸರ್ 10 ನಿಮಿಷ ಬೇಗ ತಗೊಂತಿದಾರೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಸರ್.
So that I can't leave you. Who is the teacher?
ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಪ್ಯಾಥಾಲಜಿ ಸರ್ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್, ಪ್ರಸನ್ನ
No,
ಕುಮಾರ್
no,
sir.
it is whether it is pathology or anybody, it is according to their timetable, they have to take the classes. Okay.
ಓಕೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
Okay, okay. Okay, so here you can see the host range for the Chrysopidae and the brown lacing. The Chrysopids are having the wide host range, and whereas the Hemerobidae are having the narrow host range. Okay, so these are the best example you remember, because in many of the objective type you'll be having this question, that is a Micromus egorotus. Okay, where both the adults and the larvae feed on the sugarcane woolly aphid, that is a Ceratophragma lanigera. Whatever the photograph you have is the sugarcane woolly aphid, that is a Ceratophragma lanigera. So next you have is the next family, the Neuroptera you have is the Myrmeleontidae. So that is the antline. So already I have explained about this. I'm not going to tell you in detail. That is a Myrmeleon singulare is the example for the Myrmeleontidae, that is the antline. So where it makes the trap. And another family you have is the Ascalpidae. Okay, Ascalpidae, they are called as the owl flies. I think so in the previous course, you might have heard that Myrmeleontidae, they just look like a damsel fly. Where you can see, you may get confused with the damsel fly, but look into the antenna. So here it is the capitate type, where there is a antenna are different that you find in case of the damsel fly. And here you have is the Ascalpidae. Ascalpidae is the owl fly, which you compare with the dragonfly. So here you can see it is a capitate type of the antenna that you find just like what you find in case of the butterflies. So where the the flagella segment at the tip, they suddenly increase in size. So with this character, you can differentiate the owl fly and the dragonfly. So just like an antline, so here you can see the grub will not construct or it will not make any trap. Just it will be the surface of the bark or any of the perennial ecosystem, it will be there. So here also you can see it is provided with the well-developed mandibles. It is also mandibulosuctorial type of the mouth parts. So they are also general predators. So here you can see it is catching on the cockroach. So where you cannot differentiate the bark and the grub of the owl fly. And here you can see it is feeding on the termite, that is a spider. So this is what you find in case of the Ascalpidae. Okay, there also adults and grubs are the general predator. So another family under the Neuroptera you have is the Mantispidae. Gavisidesh?
Yes ma'am. Ma'am, time ಆಗಿತ್ತು.
ನನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಮುಗಿಯುತ್ತೆ?
ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ 10:30 ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
10:30ಗೆನಾ?
ಹಾ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
Okay, I will just complete this slide and close it. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So you have another family under the Neuroptera, that is the Mantispidae. So I told you this species is different from what you have is the Mantidae. So this is the endo and that is the exo. And here you can see this exactly look like a praying mantis, but you look into the wing character and also leg character is also same. So usually you can see here, best example, it is also having the hypermetamorphosis. I think so you have learned the blister beetle, for the hypermetamorphosis, but these Mantispidae are also having a hypermetamorphosis. So these are the first instars, what we call them as a triangulins, what you call in the blister beetle also. And this is the adult. This is the first instar, which is the triangulin. This is the campodiform, which is a flat and it is having a thoracic segment, and this is the scarabiform. So 3 forms of the larvae you find in the life cycle of the Mantispidae. So that is what you can see here. Okay, so it is having a hypermetamorphosis, and both the grubs and the adults are the predator. So they may feed on the spiders also. Some species are exclusively feeding on the spiders, and others are the general predator. Okay, so you can see here they are commonly called as the mantid flies, Mantispidae, mantid lacewing, or the mantid flies. Okay, I think so. With this, I will just close it, and in the next class, I will continue with the next order, that is a Coleoptera. Okay, so if you have any doubts, just keep it with you. In the next class, I will just discuss. Okay. Okay, Gavish Nitesh, I will
Okay,
just end the
thank you, ma'am.
class. Okay, okay, bye.
Thank you.
Mm.